Story 1. The Hitchhiker's Trap. The Appalachian Mountains stretched endlessly before me, bathed in the dying light of a crimson sunset. The highway was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that felt like it was holding its breath. I had just fueled up with snacks and caffeine, ready to push through the night, when I saw her, a lone figure walking along the shoulder of the highway, her thumb outstretched. She looked rough, like she'd been out in the wilderness for days. Her backpack sagged with weight, her face shadowed beneath a hood. I didn't usually pick up hitchhikers, but something about her seemed harmless, almost pitiful. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and stopped. "Need a ride?" I asked, leaning out the window. She looked up, her eyes empty, and nodded. "Next town," she said softly, her voice barely audible. She climbed into the cab without another word, settling into the passenger seat with her backpack clutched tightly to her chest. I tried to make small talk, but her answers were clipped, one-word responses. She wouldn't meet my gaze. The sun dipped below the horizon as we approached the next town. Just as we neared the lights of civilization, she spoke for the first time in full sentences. "Could you take me a little further?" she asked, her voice still quiet but with an edge of urgency. "I live just outside town. It's right off the highway. Won't take long." I hesitated but agreed. Soon, she directed me to a narrow dirt road leading to a dilapidated cabin shrouded in shadows. The air felt colder here, heavier, like the darkness was alive. As I peered down the road, I caught movement near the cabin. 3 figures darting from the house to a woodpile. My stomach tightened. "You sure you live alone?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She paused, her hand on the door handle. "Yeah," she said flatly. "Why?" Her lie was glaring, and my gut screamed at me to leave. She suddenly turned to me, her eyes glinting in the dim light. "You can come in, you know," she said, her voice unnervingly calm. "Take a break. Get something to eat." I forced a smile. "Thanks, but I've got to keep moving." Her expression hardened as she stepped out of the truck. I didn't wait to see what would happen next. As I drove off, my rearview mirror caught the silhouettes of the 3 men stepping out from behind the woodpile. Even now, I wonder what might have happened if I had stepped out of my truck. Do you have the nerves to make it to the end of these spine-chilling stories? Stick around, because the last one might just keep you up all night. And if you're enjoying these terrifying tales, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and share it with someone who loves a good scare. Most of you watching aren't subscribed, and we don't want you to miss what's coming next. Story 2. The Unseen Road. The Nevada desert at night is like another world. Endless black, punctuated only by the occasional shimmer of distant stars. I'd been driving for hours, the monotony broken only by the hum of my truck and the tinny chatter of the podcast. It was close to midnight when I noticed them. 3 sleek black SUVs ahead of me, all identical, gliding down the highway in a single file. Something about them struck me as odd, their formation too perfect, their presence too synchronized. As I got closer, my curiosity deepened. Their Nevada plates bore single digits, 1, 2, and 3 in perfect order. Who the hell had plates like that? For miles, I followed them, trying to rationalize their purpose. Maybe a government convoy, or some eccentric millionaire's fleet. But then, without warning, they all slowed down and veered onto a dirt road that seemed to appear out of nowhere. There were no signs, no mile markers, nothing to suggest a road existed. One by one, they disappeared into the inky blackness, their taillights snuffing out like candles. I slowed, peering into the void. There was nothing, no lights, no landmarks, just endless desert. My skin prickled with unease. What were they doing out here, in the middle of nowhere? I thought about turning onto the dirt road, but something deep and primal held me back. As I drove on, I kept glancing in my mirrors, expecting to see those SUVs reappear. They never did. Whatever was down that road, it was a place they knew well, a place they didn't want anyone else to see. Story 3. The Phantom Truck. The fog rolled in like a living thing, swallowing the road and everything around it. My headlights barely penetrated the thick mist, and the rain didn't help, drumming relentlessly against my windshield. It was late and I was exhausted, but I kept going, the radio turned up to keep me awake. Then, through the haze, I saw a pair of dim lights coming straight at me. At first, I thought it was another truck, but as it drew closer, something fell off. The lights didn't swerve. The truck kept barreling down the wrong lane, straight toward me. My heart raced as I flashed my high beams, honking desperately. It didn't slow. I could just make out the silhouette of a driver. But something about it wasn't right. It was like he wasn't really there. At the last second, I swerved hard, tires screeching as the other truck shot past, disappearing into the fog like it had never been there. I pulled over, my hands shaking on the wheel. When the fog finally cleared, there was no sign of the truck. But I swear, in the silence that followed, I could still hear its engine, faint and distant, like it was hunting me. Story 4. The Highway Jackers. The Pennsylvania backroads were desolate at 3 a.m., the kind of place where shadows seemed to have a life of their own. My high beams cut through the darkness, revealing a figure sitting in the middle of the road. At first, I thought it was an animal, but as I got closer, I realized it was a person. They sat cross-legged, a hoodie pulled over their head, unmoving, even as my horn blared. I stopped my truck about 90 feet away, my instincts screaming that something wasn't right. I debated getting out, but stayed put, my fingers hovering over the door lock. Then, out of nowhere, a loud thud shook my door. A man in black had jumped onto the side of my truck, yanking at the handle. My doors were locked, thank God. I hit the gas, the engine roaring as I sped away. In my mirror, I saw the man drop off and disappear into the night. They weren't just random strangers, they were waiting, and I'd almost walked into their trap. Story 5. The Silent Pursuer. Being a female trucker isn't easy, but I'd never felt more vulnerable than I did that night. It was late, somewhere in the Midwest, when a truck merged onto the highway behind me. The driver's gaze followed me as I passed, his face expressionless. Moments later, his voice crackled over the CB radio. "You got a flat tire," he said. "You should pull over." I hadn't felt anything unusual, but his insistence grew, his voice taking on a strange, almost pleading tone. Against my better judgment, I kept driving, deciding to check my tires at the next truck stop. When I finally stopped, I discovered all my tires were perfectly fine. The other trucker had vanished into the night, but his voice still haunted me. Whoever he was, his intentions were anything but good.